Okay, here we go. Hi, AP Environmental students. This is Mr. Heisinger, and I'm going to give you guys some help with some scientific notation. So this first part's going to be on right through here. Okay. So we're going to be working a lot this year with big numbers and small numbers, and we're going to make it very easy. I'm going to show you guys how to do all sorts of good stuff. First thing, let's talk a little bit about numbers. So our first one on here is 1 billion. Place the following numbers into scientific notation. Okay. We have some very large numbers. We don't have any small ones on here. But scientific notation is going to make this much easier for all sorts of stuff we do this year. Okay, so our first one is 1 billion. So there's a few numbers we just need to know. Okay, so if we were to write out 1 billion, it has 9 zeros. Okay, but really what we're doing there is we have 1 with our decimal place moved 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 places. So it's not really the number of zeros we're counting, it's more so how many places we actually moved our decimal, comparing it to 1. All right, so every comma is worth 3 zeros. So here's 3, here's 6, here's 9. So 1 billion, written scientific notation, is 1 times 10 to the 9th. Okay, and that's what we're looking for. And we're going to have about 6 of these numbers you're going to have to know. So billion, we want to remember, is 10 to the 9th. All right, next one, 23,000. 23, and here we're in the thousands place. Okay, so we got 23,000. Decimal would be here. We moved it 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so what we want to do is we always want a number, like 2, and then we want a decimal point with our next number. So you wouldn't want to write this as 23 times 10 to the 3rd. We always want any number between 1 and 10, basically. So 2.3 falls into that. So that is 2.3 times 10 to the 1, 2, 3, 4, to the 4th power. Okay, so that's one of our rules for writing in scientific notation. And we're going to circle it there as our answer. All right, next one is 70 trillion. Okay, this is another one that you just want to have memorized. So if we're doing trillion, that would be 1 times 10 to the 12th. Okay, so that would be 1 trillion, but we have 70 trillion. So we could write this as 70 times 10 to the 12th. But now we're violating that rule of this number needs to be between 1 and 10. So we're making this number 1 smaller, which means we have to make this one larger. Okay, so if we make this a smaller number, this has to be larger. This ends up being 7.0 times 10 to the 13th. Okay, technically both of these numbers are the same number. The other way we could write this is with a 7 with 13 zeros behind it, or 70 with another 12 zeros behind it. But all three of those are the same way of writing it. But we're going to try to keep it like this. All right, next one is 3,000. Okay, and same thing. So our decimal would be here. 1, 2, 3. This would be 3 times 10 to the 3rd power. Circle our answer. All right, now let's get into some math. 500 billion times 35,000. Okay, that seems scary. We're going to make this nice and easy. So we have 500 billion. Okay, so 1 billion times 10 to the 9th, but we have 500 times 10 to the 9th. Okay, and like we did in our last one, I don't want to multiply anything by 500. That just seems like too much work. I'm going to move this over, and also this 500 is not between 1 and 10. So we want to move this over 2 more spots. So I'm making 500 go down to 5. So I'm making this number smaller, which means I need to make this one larger. Okay, so this would actually be 1, 2, 5.00 times 10, 9, 10, 11. We've got to add 2 places onto this number. So 9 plus 2. So that is actually 5 times 10 to the 11th times 35,000. Okay, same thing. So 35,000 would be 35, comma 1, 2, 3. Okay, I don't want to multiply anything by 35,000. It seems very scary and intimidating. So this would actually be written as 1, 2, 3, 4, 3.5 times 10 to the 4th power. Okay, so now we want to multiply these together. Okay, so we're going to ignore the times 10 to the 11th and the times 10 to the 4th. we're going to just take our 5 and multiply it by 35. So we got 5, and we're going to times it by 3.5. Okay. I don't want to measure by 3.5, so I'm going to do 35, which means I've moved my decimal one place this way, which means when I get my final answer, I'm going to have to move it back this direction. Okay. 5 times 5 is 25. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. Okay. We've done this one. We have our next one. Put a 0 down in here. Okay. 3 times 5, 5, 10, 15. And now we're going to add these up. 5, 5, 6, 7, and 1. Okay? Now, it's not 175. Remember, we moved our decimal one place to the right, so I need to move it one place back. Okay? So now we have 17.5. And we're just going to check that. We originally wanted to do 5 times 3.5. 5 times 3 is 15, so it should be a little bit more than that. And 17.5 is close to that. We know we're good. Okay? Now we're on to our next part where we're working with our exponents. Multiplication for exponents, all we do is add them up. So we have times 10 to the 11th plus times 10 to the 4th. So this would be 17.5 times 10 to 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 to the 15th power. And next thing on here is, once again, this isn't in between 1 and 10. So we're going to move this one place over. So since we made 17 smaller, we need to make this one larger. So this would be 1.75 times 10 to the 16th power. There we go. That's how we just did all that math. On to number 7. 1/10,000th of 3 millionth. Okay, so let's talk about what this means. We have 1/10,000th. 1/10,000th. Okay? Let's do a little bit of decimal points. So let's start with 1. We have 1. If we want to make this smaller, if we were to move our decimal over, we would have 0.1. Okay? 0.1 would be the same thing as 1/10th. If we move it over another spot, okay, 1, 2, this would be 1/100th. Okay, 0.001 would be 1/1000th. And then our next one is what we're looking for, is 1/10,000, would be 0.0001. Okay, right here. That number is 1/10,000th. We're going to write that in scientific notation. Now this is really small. Small numbers have a negative value. 1, 2, 3, 4. This number is better written in scientific notation as 1 times 10 to the -4th. Okay? This is the same thing as this, which is the same thing as this fraction here, or 1/10,000th. Now we want 1/10,000th of 3 million. Okay? So really what we're doing here, we want 1/10,000th of 3 million. So what we want to do there is multiply those two numbers together. Okay? So our next number that we're working with is 3 million. Million is going to be times 10 to the 6. But we have 3 million, so we're going to multiply this times 3 times 10 to the 6th power. Okay? This one's pretty easy. So we have 1 times 3. That's easy, 3. And then the next part on here is we have -4 and +6. Okay, so same thing. We're going to add these together because we're multiplying these two numbers together. So -4 plus +6, or 6 minus 4, would be +2. So this would be 3 times 10 to the 2nd power. Okay, so that's our answer in scientific notation. If we move our decimal 2 places, this is better known as just 300. Okay, so 1, 2, 300. Scientific notation and written out of scientific notation. All Alright, last one on here. We have 6 billion divided by 35 trillion. Okay, once again, this sounds kind of scary. So 6 billion would be, billion, remember, is to the ninth power. So we have 6 times 10 to the 9th power. We're going to divide that by 35 times trillion would be the 12th. And if we want to, we could do that. Yeah, we'll keep it as 35. That'll be a little bit easier for division. That way we don't have to work with decimal points. So 35 times 10 to the 12th power. Okay, so let's do some long division here. All right, no calculators. So we're not going to do anything with our exponents. We're going to work with just 35 and 6. 35 into 6 doesn't go at all. We're going to add a 0 onto here. 35 into 60, okay, that'll go one time. So 60 minus 35, that'll get us 25. 35 does not fit into 25, so we're going to drop down another 0, which is 250. All right. Here, we had to probably do some math. How many times does 35 go into 250? And I highly recommend, if you need to, 35, 35, 35, 35. All right, so here's 4 35s. 5, 10, 15, 20. Put a 2 over here. Put a 0 here. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 140. Not close enough yet. So that's 35 times 4. If we doubled that, we would have 35 times 8, which would be 280. That's too much. Okay, so I know it's not 8. If we do this plus another 35 and another 35, that'd be 6. We're just under it. So if we add 3 more 35s, 35, 35, 35, 35, with 35, 35, 35, then we get all the way up to 245. So that fits. So basically 35 fits into 250 7 times. 35 times 7 is 245. Subtract that, and we end up with 5 remaining. Carry down another 0, fits into 1 time. Okay? So, doing this, remember we moved our decimal. This would be 1.71, okay, times 10. Oh, so now for exponents. Okay? So we have 9, and we're dividing it by 12. Anytime we're doing division, we're not adding these, now we're subtracting these. 9 minus 12 would be negative 4. 1.71 times 10 to the negative 4th power. And circle that. Okay? So here's just a little bit of practice of billions, thousands, hundredths, scientific notation, multiplying those out, and also dividing them out. So we got all our answers. Hope you can read this. We'll do another video for part 2.